Yo, what's up everyone, General Ether here, and yeah, it's time to start my official retrospective of all next-gen COD Zombies maps. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. You may think I stole this idea from Tim Hansen and the Smith Plays, two big Zombies YouTubers who either done or just started doing Zombies retrospectives recently. Well, in simple terms, no, but in actuality, it's complicated. See, I already did a retrospective of COD Zombies on my main channel. However, all those reviews were formulated and each review had a system that conveyed my thoughts in an orderly manner, but didn't allow me to talk about these maps in a free, relaxed way. So after the series concluded, I found myself wanting to eventually talk about IW, World War II, and Black Ops 4 Zombies, but I didn't know when. However, with BO5 releasing this year, I decided to start another retrospective of my own where I talk about every next-gen Zombies map leading up to BO5's release, somewhere between October and December. I was also further encouraged into doing this series when I saw how good and in-depth Paxos reviews were, and I decided I want to review these maps in an in-depth analytical style rather than a formulaic one. With that said, let's start talking about Shadows of Evil, which, to put it bluntly, is rivaling Mob with being the most ambitious Zombies map of all time. However, before I start on the map itself, I want to talk about my initial reception to this map upon release. Whenever the Shadows of Evil trailer dropped and I first watched it, a huge wave of confusion and excitement swept over me, the latter being the dominant feeling. Then once I got Black Ops 3 in my PS4 in 2015's Christmas, I was mind blown. I then loaded up Black Ops 3 and there it was, Shadows of Evil. This was it, the map I had nightmares of never being able to play. The map I begged my parents for until I got it. This was it, Shadows of Evil. I wasted no time. I immediately began playing the crap out of it, and I felt nothing. I mean, believe me, I was still incredibly hyped about having the game in the PS4, but the hole inside of me where my excitement for this map laid was left empty. However, I still did a review of this map on launch and gave it a good rating. I mean, it's Shadows of Evil, the map I waited 2 years for. Sherlock's epic comeback. There's no way this map can be bad. It's Shadows of Evil, the next mob is there. No way it could be bad. I hated it. After a few months of playing Black Ops 3, my mind was made up. This map was awful. And it wasn't just the zombies. I hated Black Ops 3's campaign for its overcomplicated nature. I hated Black Ops 3's multiplayer for its bad maps and pay-to-win BS supply shop system that was on another level of awful than AW's. I hated Black Ops 3. And if I didn't like this game, no one else was going to either. Every chance I got, I slammed this game. Every opportunity I got. Screw Activision, screw Treyarch, screw Black Ops 3. I was fed up. After my disappointment, I moved on to other games, and ironically, the game that every COD fan seemed to despise was my favorite COD game since BO2, Infinite Warfare. I loved IW's grounded but heartfelt campaign. I thought major improvements were put into multiplayer, which fixed Black Ops 3's garbage supply drop system, and the zombie season, I'm gonna get a ton of hate for this, was my favorite zombie season since BO1's. However, then came the COD cycle I referred to as the dull cycle. Original name, I know. After IW, we got World War II, which on its own was a decent game, however it felt bland and unoriginal at every turn. After that we got BO4, which was also dull of its uninspired Battle Royale, which only existed because of the annoying 2018 Battle Royale trend. The multiplayer, aside from its interesting new tactical healing feature, was the same old, and the zombies was the only thing that seemed like it had any form of originality or care for that matter, despite the new HUD being a downgrade. Then came my new least favorite COD ever, Modern Warfare. An absolute train wreck with a boring campaign over relying on fan service and shock value, a multiplayer plagued with garbage maps and toxic campers, a Spec Ops mode devoid of any interesting features or replay value, and a recently added Battle Royale, which I can't judge due to me never playing it before, but from what I've seen, it doesn't look like anything special. 3 years in a row, and each game had been a huge disappointment. This 3-year cycle made the last 3-year cycle we got look godly. So naturally, I went back. I briefly revisited AW and IW, which gave me a huge wave of nostalgia, and I decided to do the same with BO3. I installed the game, and at the time I only had Shadows, the Giant, the Rising Jaha, and Zombie Chronicles. So after I got tired of the other maps, I decided to give Shadows of Evil a go for the first time in a year. What's the worst that could happen? So I loaded it up, and I loved it. I don't know what changed, but I was really enjoying myself. But what changed my mind? Well, during this review, I'm going to highlight a few things that at first I disliked but now love in the map and kicked off Black Ops 3, Shadows of Evil. Before I start talking about the gameplay, I first just want to say that this map's atmosphere and style is amazing. It pulls off that jazzy 60s big city style extremely well with its soundtrack, dialogue, and of course map design. The style alone of this map is a big thing it has going for it. However, starting on gameplay, there's one thing about this map that has contributed to its negative reception on launch for not only me but a lot of other people, and that's the fact that this map is not noob friendly, which is super weird to say the least since this is on this map. You would think that it would be simple and casual for newcomers, but it's not. And one thing that I've been thinking about recently, here, just listen to this. Why is Kino so popular and a fan favorite? The answer is that this map was super welcoming to newcomers while also having the perfect mix of simplicity and challenge. Now, name one on this Treyarch map that meets that criteria. Transit? Nope. Shadows? Nope. Voyage 9 Blood? Nope. The closest thing we've had to that is Town from Black Ops 2, and what do you know, it's a fan favorite. The point I'm trying to make here is on this maps tend to do really well when they're easy to learn and play. I mean, just look at Zombies in Spaceland. It had a perfect balance of casual difficulty while also having tons of learnable side quests to encourage replayability. However, Shadows is not a map of that caliber. While it does have tons of replayability and side quests, it's not a map that's meant to be playable by complete noobs, and I feel that hurt its reputation. If this map was a DLC, it would have been received much better. One example is the Pack-a-Punch process. When I first started playing this map, this Pack-a-Punch process was my new least favorite thing in Zombies ever. That is not an exaggeration, I hated it. If you're unfamiliar with it, essentially what you have to do is perform 4 rituals at the end of each section of the map before doing a final ritual in an underground summoning area. Most people hate this Pack-a-Punch process since it felt like too much to do just to get packed, but revisiting it, I can see why people would think that, but I personally don't think that way anymore. Not only does it encourage you to open up the map, but it's also not that bad. While the waterfront area is a little too tight, the other areas aren't difficult. Not only that, but this isn't like Zetspa where you have to spend a fortune in opening doors. The doors are not only limited, but reasonably priced, so if you manage your points wisely, you can have the rituals done by round 4 or 5. Speaking of setup processes, there's the swords to discuss. These swords are also not unreasonably challenging to get. In fact, all you really need to do is get a good bit of knowledge and practice in order to get these things. And once you obtain the swords, not only are they super helpful, but there's an easy way to upgrade them. However, this wouldn't be a Zombies map without a little RNG, and that's where the Apocalypse Server comes in. Now, to be fair, this thing is super powerful, but the quest still is RNG. The first step is straightforward and easy. After killing your first Margwa, you can pick up its heart and you'll be a third of the way there. However, the second part requires you to harvest pods around the map. Now, these pods are scattered around the map, and if you obtain a Fumigator, you can harvest them for additional rewards that come in the form of power-ups and or weapons. If you give the pods more time to grow, they'll change from green to yellow to red to purple, each color being a new rarity. This step requires you to harvest purple pods until one of them gives you the part you need. While it may be a little tedious, it's still not that bad. However, for the third part, you need a green ball sack, yep, that's what I'm calling it, from a pest or elemental, which are a different enemy type featured in the map to add variety. The problem is that these guys don't spawn in too frequently, so in some cases, like my recent high rounds video, I didn't get the weapon until round 28. While that's not an insanely high round, it still is a little tedious if you're trying to get your loadout set up early on in the game. Other than those 3 things, the other things to mention are the Silver Protector and the Shield. The Silver Protector is a welcome addition if your lobby can't stay alive longer than 5 minutes, and the Shield is great for protection against zombies behind you. However, this shield also has the ability to launch into zombies, and don't use it. It will get you killed. However, another thing to talk about is this map's layout. This map is probably the biggest Zombies map of all time. It's either that or Blood. And I really like large maps. While it may make it difficult to rest teammates, I still love traveling through what feels like a huge expansive area. However, there is a catch. Most of this map is comprised of linear alleyways and tight rooms. However, this map is still balanced and does provide some open spaces to train. The layout of this map can be challenging, and that's one thing I like about it. Its layout is challenging but possible. Speaking of challenge, this map does have a few new enemy types and a sub-boss I haven't gotten to yet. The first I'm going to discuss are the Wasp and Elementals. While these are 2 different enemy types, they're both nothing really special. They both serve to have a dog round in the map, which I can't really complain about since I love dog rounds. The only difference between the 2 types of enemies are the fact that one shoots crap at you from a distance and the other is just a wrap for multiplayer except it looks like a meatball. The real star of the new enemy types introduced is the Margra. Now, Mama Margra can be really annoying at times due to the fact that it can one-hit you without Juggernaut, but this boss is relatively easy to deal with if you keep your distance and play reasonably. As for the story of Shadows of Evil, it's not something powerful like Mob's story, but that doesn't mean it's devoid of any interesting plot concepts or characters. Quite the opposite, actually. This map is rich with background information that helps Morgue City feel like an extended story all on its own. And these characters, while not interesting or complex, are still interesting enough to make you think about them. Also, this map was the first to introduce Apothecans, and this was easily the most overwhelming thing about this map upon release, since no one knew who the heck the Shadow Man or his interdimensional army of mutated monsters was. While it did raise a lot of questions like it was supposed to, they could have either toned it back or at least given us more story information in this map to better understand these guys, since, you know, they are the main antagonists. As for the Easter egg, a few months after it came out, I asked one of my good friends what he thought of the Easter egg, and he went on about how annoying and tedious the Easter egg was. Since the Easter egg required 4 people and my friend thought it was secretly engineered to be a torture device, I never touched it until recently. And while I understand why people really don't like this egg, I personally love it. Are the steps bland? Yeah. Does it get repetitive? Yeah. Is the last step annoying? Yeah. However, I just thought this Easter egg was a lot of fun since it has a heavy emphasis on teamwork and is super replayable for its straightforward steps. Story-wise, nothing too crazy happens. Our team of 4 revolts against the Shadow Man after he deceived them into giving him the summoning key, and they ironically trap him in it, before Richtofen comes and takes the key before piecing out. I gotta admit, Richtofen making a sudden cameo like that is pretty cool. While it is annoying that the Easter egg requires 4 people to do, the actual teamwork needed to complete it is pretty cool. In conclusion, Shadows of Evil is a map that came out in the wrong place at the wrong time. This map is an excellent map with replayability, a good layout, and an intriguing enough story. But the map wasn't a good on-disc map, and it was simply just overwhelming on launch in terms of both gameplay and story. However, this map is still pretty good, and I'm giving it a 4 out of 5.
Trusted you, Retrospective. Never!
The Ice and Jaha is perfect. Thank you guys for watching. Okay, I'll guess I'll do a review of this map regardless of us already knowing of its quality. After Shadows of Evil and the Giants release, people were anticipating the Ice and Jaha. I mean, how could they not? I still remember all of the trailers for this map. Each of the trailers showed off something really cool and or intriguing. And then the map released, and for the first time since Origins, everyone was loving this map upon release. Even though to this day I still don't like Origins, but I do like the Rise and Jaha. But what reasons do I have for liking the Rise and Jaha? Well, let's start the review. The first thing I talk about is the map's visuals. Are they as eye-pleasing as Shadows? No. Do they perfectly reflect the atmosphere and or tone this map is going for? Well, that's the thing. The Rise and Jaha doesn't really have an atmospheric message like its other Black Ops 3 counterparts, at least not one that I know of. However, that doesn't stop the map from looking gorgeous because my god it does. The interiors provide enough color to please your eyes, and the outside areas are really pleasing to look at too, with the constant snowing giving the map a weird peaceful feeling. So while the visuals in this map, aside from the giant, may be the least interesting to look at, they still look pretty good, and trust me, the map makes up for its lack of defining atmosphere. But before we do get to the insane positives, I'll touch on another neutral subject, the map's layout. The map layout of this map is not all that interesting either. It's not necessarily tight, but it's not really open. Essentially, the map provides a good bit of training spots and camping spots for that matter, but will also have more than enough tight places to raise the difficulty. So, the map isn't a cakewalk. Well, it is for experienced players. However, now we can get into the real star of the show, what the map contains gameplay-wise. If you played this map or even Mob, then you should be familiar with how the dragons work. Essentially, you have to feed 3 dragon heads around the map a certain amount of zombies. You do this by simply killing zombies in front of it. Imagine a soul box, except you get a cool animation of each zombie's kill. This process may sound like it's tedious on paper, but this dragon step is really fun, and it's a good way of spicing up early rounds and give you something productive to do as you unlock the map. Well, you may be asking, what in the world does this give you? Why, the Wrath of the Ancients, of course. Now, this reward is so much better than the Hell's Retriever if you ask me. The Wrath of the Ancients was a smart decision, because casual players who grab hold of this weapon will probably love it since, you know, they're probably not going to survive that long, and this weapon will certainly last them to the low or moderate round they die on. However, for us hardcore players who tend to go for round 30 or above, this weapon will start shooting marshmallows. That's where the upgraded versions come in. If you're an experienced player, there's 4 completely optional upgrades you can get for the Wrath of the Ancients you can obtain if you go to the trouble of doing a side quest. There's the Wolf Bow, which is the easiest to get but is easily the least effective. There's the Void Bow, which is easy to get as well but is super effective. And there's the Lightning Bow, which can be a little tedious at times to obtain, but once you get it, it's an absolute monster. Now, the reason I left out the Fire Bow is because I've still never built the thing before. I've had this game for nearly 5 years, I'm a Prestige 8, I've played this map countless times, and I've still yet to build this thing because the first step is too painful. Noah, we still need the Fire Bow tutorial! However, I have used the Fire Bow before, and it's decent. As you would have guessed, these bows upgrades add a lot of replayability to the map as a whole, especially with the optional upgrades. However, if you're playing with randoms, be prepared to either race for your arrow or do whatever bow the randoms left you with. Hey, at least you can't steal your weapons like in Origins. Did I mention I don't like Origins? Also, the Rocket Shield makes a comeback, and don't worry, its charge is still as useless as ever. There are also a new specialist weapon that can come from multiplayer called Vectorox. You can obtain this weapon by doing 3 easy steps, and this specialist not only gives you something to do, but it's also a lifesaver. You can either slam repeatedly on the ground and annihilate any zombies that stand in your way, or you can slam them permanently on the ground and be invincible for a few seconds by standing in its electrical charge. This is perfect for reviving players. Also, there's some sort of plunge on this map, and I have no clue what that is about. I've never gotten it before, so yeah, this map is full of fun side quests that will definitely keep you entertained when getting set up on early rounds, and the quests themselves aren't cheap. As for the sub-bosses in this map, Hellhounds make a triumphant return, and for the first time since King of the Turton, they're a part of this map and they're not optional. As for the boss zombie of the map, Panzers make a return from Origins, except there's 2 new changes. Number 1, they don't come at round 8, so you have a chance to get set up so you can actually fight the thing. And 2, the claw move has been replaced for a projectile move where they can shoot shock charges. While the shock charges are annoying, I'll take it any day than that claw move. So yeah, the sub-bosses in this map do a good job at spicing up the gameplay on high rounds without being too tedious to ruin your experience. Now it's time to talk about the Easter egg. I love it. Out of any Easter egg, maybe aside from Rave or Spaceland, Der Eisendrache is easily my most completed Easter egg. I don't want to go too deep into the steps because then that'll take all video, but I can confidently say that this Easter egg is so replayable because all the steps are either fun or just not tedious. And to cap it off, the boss fight at the end was at the time the best COD Zombies boss of all time. Easily still the best Treyarch fight of all time. The boss looks cool and it's balanced to the point where it's not broken, but challenging enough to keep you alert and always moving. The Easter egg might easily be the best COD Zombies Easter egg of all time. And a good reason for that is the story. Now, after the cliffhanger on Shadows of Evil and the confusing intro on the Giant, no one knew where the story was heading, and we find out on Der Eisendrache that was actually intentional. Because none of our characters aside from obviously Richtofen knows what's happening either. Essentially, the community is in the perspective of Tank, Nikolai, and Takeo. The only info we get is Richtofen wants to secure Tank 1.0. Now, as you do the Easter egg, many cool story moments happen. We get some cool insight to Dr. Groff, we cleanse the Corrupted Keeper, and we top all that off by blowing up the moon, which was not only a cool symbolic nod to Moon telling the player history won't repeat itself, but it was also a huge shock since people were speculating a Moon remake at the time. And then the Easter egg outro cutscene. We finally figure out what Richtofen's grand scheme is when he drops the bombshell that he needs to kill all the Ultimates versions of themselves and absorb them into the summoning key. The characters are obviously not happy with this news, but Tank volunteers to off himself and he does so in visual pain. Then for the first time in this entire 9-year-old story, Richtofen shows care for his allies, and then the player is left with many chilling questions. Why does Richtofen need the souls? Can Richtofen be trusted? Will the group succeed in their mission? All will be revealed in the journey ahead. The story inside Der Eisendrache is not complex in any way, but the story moments that happen during the Easter egg are mind-blowing, and the map does a great job in setting up the rest of the season. In conclusion, Der Eisendrache is a perfect map. The visuals and layouts are decent, the plethora of side quests are fun to do, the Easter egg is mind-blowing, and the story is great. Der Eisendrache is the definition of a perfect zombies map, and that's why it gets an easy 5 out of 5.
Blood isn't running, isn't pumping in
None of us choose the means by which mercy will find us.
The wind is blowing and they're growing all the time, and all the leaves will need to fall.
Zetsubo no Shima, the meme of Black Ops 3 zombies. I still remember the hype leading up to Zetsubo's release. Everything from the vague images, the amazing intro, and the cool trailers really got me hyped for this map's release. That and this was going to be the first map since Mob that went for an isolated, scary feel to it. However, when the map first released, it was plagued with bugs and the door prices were so high they had to be nerfed twice, and they're still super expensive. So expensive I can't enjoy this map fully unless I have the shopping free Gobagum. That, and people weren't a fan of Zetsubo's huge round of side quests, so after 4 years of hearing about how much this map sucked without playing it, I was finally able to give it a try for myself in October of 2019. And I didn't know what people were saying. I was personally enjoying the map. But is it flawed? But what about Zetsubo no Shima works and what about it doesn't? Well, let's talk about Zetsubo no Shima. So the notable thing that many people don't really appreciate about this map is the visuals and atmosphere. In terms of those two things, this map excels with a capital E. While this map doesn't make you feel as isolated as maps like Noct, Verrucht, and Mob, it still does the job right, and the amount of detail that's put into the environments really does make you feel like you're stranded on an island where horrible experiments took place, and you're left to deal with the aftermath of said experiments. My only complaint is the fact that when you look at the sky, you see a complete war zone going up on there, which really takes away from the whole isolated feeling. Other than that, the visuals and melancholy atmosphere are put off perfectly. As in the layout of the map, it's honestly the best layout in the game aside from Derais and Jaha. Every space in this map feels manageable without being a giant square for the player to train in. At least that's how outside areas are. Interior areas are obviously more claustrophobic. However, if you're not stupid to be in an interior room with a horde following you, then you're likely you can get yourself out of a sticky situation. Another thing that I love about this map is its size. This map is big enough to make a full 4-player match not feel boxed in, but it's small enough to avoid a situation like Origins where if a player goes down across the map, all you can do is say goodbye. However, it's funny, because everything I've said about the layout so far has been positive, because trust me, it's a good layout. But there is the issue I brought up earlier of there being a door on every square inch of this map to buy. This map will bleed you dry for points, and every time I play this map, I'd be sure to have a shopping fee with me because this map has too many doors. Honestly, if there weren't so many doors, this would be one of my favorite zombie maps in this game, including Zombie Chronicles. So yeah, great layout, but the excessive amount of doors ruin it. Now, let's get into the juicy part of the segment, the innovations this map brings to the table, the reason as to why this map stands out. Well, let's start. There are multiple wonder weapons in this map that I am a huge fan of. There's the Skull of Namsapwe, which is a specialist weapon that obliterates everything in its path, and the KT-4, which is an okay weapon unlike its upgraded version, the Masamune, which is an absolute beast that can shred through high rounds if used properly. Think of it like the Slinker Fire on Die-Rise, except it's on a better map. This map was also the first to introduce underwater combat, and while it was a minor part of the map, it was handled really well and controls pretty smoothly. Not only that, but this map has a mini-boss in the form of a giant spotter you can fight to get a free Widow's Wine and upgrade parts to the KT-4. And this is a pretty sick idea and can make upgrade quests feel all the more epic. As for the sub-boss, we're introduced to Jassers. As much as I hate these guys, I will admit that these bosses aren't actually annoying to fight. However, their spawn rate is completely ridiculous and they start spawning as early as round 5. As for dog rounds, this map's dog rounds feature spiders as an enemy and they're alright. They don't look as cool as dogs and they're not all that fun to fight, they're just a meh enemy. Oh, and I almost completely forgot about the plant system. In this map, you can grow a plant through a course of 3 rounds by watering it with one type of water or a combination of different types, which can result in many different rewards. And despite the multiple memes about this system, since you are watering plants in the middle of a zombie-infested island, it's a cool system. And that's it really with the innovations Zetsubo brought to the table, and dare I say it, Zetsubo has so many cool new ideas and concepts that paid off. However, this map is also known for having a plethora of things to do, and I'm about to cover that along with the Easter egg. Now, a lot of people don't like Zetsubo due to it essentially being one massive chores list. In fact, there's so much stuff to do, there's only 3 actual Easter egg steps excluding the boss fight, and everything else is literally just getting map items. And while that may be true, dare I say it, that's what makes Zetsubo so much fun to me. It has an insane sense of progression. While there are plenty of stuff to do, each quest item you go for is always a nice reward. Doing the skull rituals, you get an amazing specialist weapon. Going for the mask pieces, the mask is super helpful. Going for the Gate Vault upgrade, you can get yet another amazing wonder weapon. Every quest item is rewarding, so you don't feel like you're ever wasting your time on the map. As for the Easter egg, all it really is getting every single item on the map, including only 3 items exclusive to the actual main quest. And some may say that's lazy, and who knows, it might be, but I really don't mind it. On any other map, getting every quest item sounds like a nightmare, but on this one, it's actually pretty fun. It makes for a solid Easter egg. And the boss fight at the end, I'm not gonna lie, is super boring and unimaginative, but at least it's not excruciating to fight against. That comes later. So yeah, the Easter egg is pretty fun, and everything else you have to do is fun at best and tolerable at worst. Now we can get into the story of Zetsubo no Shima, which is a fairly simple yet tragic one. We all remember the Ultimate versions of these characters, right? Nikolai was obsessed with vodka, Tank was obsessed with obliterating zombies, Richtofen was obsessed with completing his master plan, and our boy Ultimus Takeo lived only to serve the Emperor, whom he thought was a highly honorable man. However, in this corrupted fragment of the universe, Takeo is betrayed by his life's purpose and is tortured and subjected to horrifying experiments by Division 9, who used Element 115 to create grotesque, horrifying creatures. Long after an outbreak that left Division 9's facility completely abandoned, our Ultimus characters, well, Pyramus characters head on to the island to find and take Takeo 1.0's soul. On their way, they encounter a slight hiccup when they realize the elevator that takes them deeper to the facility is broken, so after facing not only the undead but Division 9's awful experiments, they descend into a room where Takeo 1.0 has mutated beyond recognition. After a brutal encounter, both Takeos have a heart-to-heart moment until Takeo 1.0 informs 2.0 of the Emperor's treachery. Takeo 2.0 is devastated by this, but Takeo Masaki, being the honorable warrior he is, finds new purpose in saving the universe, and shows he hasn't given up on his quest. Takeo 1.0 accepts his fate with honor, and in a common Japanese tradition, Takeo 1.0 is killed. The story of Zetsubo no Shima is by no means a complex one, but it is certainly a highlight of Black Ops 3. The brutal beating of an otherwise one-note character who is Takeo 1.0 has always struck me. Division 9's grotesque and unnatural uses of Element 115 makes them even more sinister than that of both Group 935 and Broken Arrow. And it's cool to see our characters' reaction to what Division 9 has done to this island of despair. And to see Takeo 2.0 have his entire life's purpose stripped away, but to come back from his brief traumatized state, now determined more than ever, was one of the coolest character moments in the series. The story of Zetsubo no Shima is simplistic in concept, but is full of heart and interesting concepts. In conclusion, Zetsubo no Shima is not at all a bad map in my opinion. It's oozing in geniusly detailed environments and atmosphere. There's a lot of fun side quests to keep you busy with promising rewards. The layout is great for the most part, the Easter egg is fun, and the story is simplistic but rich in execution. So, what's the problem? Well, the drafts are a nuisance. There are way too many doors around the map to the point where setting up is a massive pain, and a huge plethora of quests can make the map overwhelming at times. I want to give this map a high rating, but unfortunately there's just barely enough issues to make this map not good, but nowhere near bad. So I'll give this map a really high 3 out of 5. I would give it a 4 if the door problem was less severe. But this map, at the end of the day, is a decent experience with a fair amount of flaws. Golrod Clovey. I really don't want to talk about this map. I really don't like this map. Okay, maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Despite Zetsubo putting a bad taste in the zombie community's mouths, everyone was still hyped for whatever the third zombies map would be. Many people were suspecting it would heavily revolve around dragons since they were teased in Zetsubou, and of course, once the intro to Go Out was released, there was no questions. Zombies had reached a point where we had freaking dragons now, and plus the intro cutscene looked really sick. So many people were excited, and then the map was released. I didn't play the map at launch since after the Horizon Jaw I just didn't buy any map packs after that. However, I heard many promising things about Go Out. Some were even saying this map was even better than the Horizon Jaw, which got me really hyped. Then in October of 2019, I bought all the zombie map packs for Black Ops 3 after 4 years of not being able to play them, and I finally got to experience Go Out Clovey. I was blown away by the map. For like 5 minutes. After I looked past its amazing visuals, I realized many things were wrong about this map. I've played a lot of it since then, and I still hate this map. But why? Well, that's what the review is for, dummies, so let's begin. I guess since I've already mentioned the visuals, I'll talk about the one thing I adore about this map first. This map looks beautifully chaotic. Everything from the ash blowing through the air, the rubble that laid throughout the cracked streets, the buildings who's on the verge of collapsing. This is the only map in all of Treyarch Zombies that makes you feel like you're in an actual war zone. This map is one of my favorite looking maps in all of Zombies. But what about the layout? Awful! This map has one of the worst layouts in any zombie maps I've ever seen. The High-Rise beats it by a close second. The problem that comes with a chaotic environment is there's so much junk everywhere. There's not a single place other than maybe the bunker where you can freely move around. This map is mostly tight halls interior-wise, and you won't have much luck outside because all the areas are so tight. Now, I'm not saying this map should have a Kino stage or something like that. I'm not saying that this map layout sucks because it lacks big open areas to train. I'm a fan of maps like Shang and Verrückt, two maps notorious for being really tight. The thing about those maps is if you're skilled enough, you can very well make those maps work in your favor, and they're neatly designed. In this map, the only training spot you have is the bunker, and unless you're using gobblegums, you need to be the best zombies player in the universe to make that spot work. I'm not saying this map layout sucks because it's difficult, I'm saying it sucks because it's cheap. And I've heard from other people that all you have to do is camp and you're good. If the only way to survive in a zombies map is to camp, that should give you an indication that something's wrong with this layout. And this stupid little doesn't help. As if the tight areas wasn't enough, we have this guy breathing fire into multiple areas in the map. It's not even like he adds to the map's difficulty, because if you have a dragon shield, which is pretty easy to build, he's not even a big problem. So really all he is just a real big annoyance. Well, what about the innovations? Well, you have the Ray Gun Mark III, which is a pretty cool weapon and is useful if you're in a tight situation. There's also the Gauntlet of Siegfried, a really cool specialist that can save your skin and looks pretty sick. And there's a new shield by the name of the Dragon Shield, which is a really cool version of the Rocket Shield, except instead of getting you killed, it will blast a green fireball that would do a number on your target. There's also a Mangler helmet that will give you less damage to Manglers, and a Dragon Wings that will take you to pack quicker. There's also a sub-boss called the Manglers, who will shoot lasers at you, but they're pretty easy to take on. And the Dog Gun is comprised of Valkyrie drones, so are more of a real annoyance rather than an actual threat. Also, regarding Pack, and perhaps another one of my favorite parts of the map, you can fly on a freaking dragon in an in-game cutscene to get to Pack. I've rode this dragon 1,000 times by now, and I still get excited every time I decide to ride on it. And yeah, that's as far as innovations go, and I like them. However, they're not anything that pulls the map or gives it its own identity. When you think about it, really all this map gives you is 2 useful weapons, an improved shield, 2 things so minor you're probably never gonna go for them, in a cool animation. And like I said, the Manglers and Valkyries are more of an annoying distraction as opposed to actual threats like the Margwa or Panzer. Overall, nice little innovations, but nothing mind-blowing. In Gorat's defense, still Eisendrache wasn't all that innovative either, but that map was executed perfectly. Well, now let's get into the quest. You know how Zetsubou no Shima had 1,000 things to do, which was fun but a little overwhelming at times? But I think Treyarch heard about the complaints most people had of that system, because in Gorod, there's really nothing to do. When I'm playing this map solo, all I do is build the shield and open up Pack-a-Punch. Oh, and get the Gauntlet of Siegfried if I'm bored. The real complexity of this map's quest lies with the Easter egg, and man is it complex. Initially, this Easter egg starts out as a fetch quest where essentially all you're doing is finding items and activating stuff. This part of the Easter egg is pretty boring and uninteresting, but once you get past that pesky valve step, things get really interesting when the trials start. Essentially, there's 5 trials that you have to do in random order, and each of these trials are really fun, and most of the time intense. After you complete these trials, along with a bonus one, you're thrown into a boss fight with a dragon, which is really grand scale, somewhat intense, but easy if you know what you're doing. Then you get to fight Nikolai 1.0 and...
Green, what's your problem, Green? What is your problem? Missile alone ramp.
This guy sucks. This is the cheapest boss I've ever fought in all of zombies. You have to shoot at multiple glowing spots in Nikolai's mech, and while you're doing it, you have zombies and freaking manglers chasing you, all while Nikolai can do absurd things like send out freaking raps. Rich playtester pissed off Jason Blundell. Jesus Christ, the only way I've ever beaten this guy is by cheesing it with gobblegums. Yep, till this day I haven't beaten this boss legitly. Can you blame me? This boss isn't even difficult in a fun way like Mephistopheles, it's just cheap and unimaginative. With the exception of the boss and a few slow points at the start of the egg, I really like this Easter egg. It's tense, full of imaginative fun steps, and if you're playing this with a team, it makes you all have to work together, which is pretty nice. Good Easter egg trailer. It's sad the boss discourages me from doing it more often though. Now, aside from the visuals and half of the Easter egg, there's another part of this map I really like. The story. Now, if you're familiar with the Battle of Stalingrad, you should realize why this map looks the way it does. If not, I'm about to give you that social studies lesson. During World War II, the Nazis invaded a Russian city by the name of Stalingrad, but true to the Russians' undying fighting spirit, the Russians never surrendered the city and kept fighting. Unfortunately, the Nazis decided to retaliate with bombs, a lot of them. So by the time the battle for the city was over, the Russians won, but the city was mostly destroyed. This map takes place during that battle, but you know how in this universe the Nazis have access to element 115? Yeah, well, they attack Stalingrad, but with robots and even dragons that they've gained control over. If you're wondering where the dragons came from, remember, this is a corrupted universe fragment similar to the Eisendrache and Zetsubo, which explains why things are so distorted and twisted. Fighting like a true Russian is Nikolai 1.0, who's stolen one of the Nazis' mechs. Don't ask me how he knows how to work it, especially while he's drunk. Anyways, in a really fun intro cutscene, our characters make contact with Nikolai 1.0, who's carried off by a dragon and his mech is damaged. So it's up to our characters getting similar to Ascension. I really like it when Sherlock uses real history in their storytelling. Anyways, as our characters go through the map, we hear just how lonely Nikolai is, and how we are the first friends he's met in years. Our characters meet Sophia, Max's wife, and no, I may be familiar with the story, but I don't know why Sophia is a robot eyeball, and I don't care to ask. So after doing some convoluted quests in COD Zombie Easter eggs fashion, Sophia gives them a battery and they send it to Nikolai 1.0, and Sophia heads off to find Max's. Our characters team up with Nikolai 1.0 to fight a dragon, and after they're successful, our characters tell Nikolai 1.0 the truth, and he doesn't like the idea of dying, so he makes one final stand against our characters, but is promptly defeated. Then in an emotional, heartfelt scene, it's revealed that all of those times Nikolai 1.0 went on about his many wives were all a lie, and him constantly being drunk was to suppress his depression of losing his true wife in the bombings of Stalingrad. Similar to Tokyo, that's such a sad and emotional way of humanizing a character we literally assumed was bland, and we really do sympathize with him. Nikolai 1.0 shoots at 2.0, and 2.0 fires back and kills his older counterpart. Then we get a chilling but exciting teaser to the final map in the season. Oh, and a mysterious godly entity named Dr. Monty is all of a sudden revealed with no build-up. Huh. Well, that happened. Anyways, that was Goard Kroby's story, and it was really good. The reasoning as to how Stalingrad got destroyed was cool since it mixed real history of the complex lore of COD Zombies, and to someone like me who finds history really fascinating, that's pretty cool. And seeing Sophia, while abrupt, was also nice. However, the best part of this story is Nikolai 1.0. This map transforms what was previously a bland and comic relief into a sympathetic, complex character. We really get to see how he lost everything, and for him to finally have people he can interact with and trust betray him in his eyes would understandably make an already unstable man go berserk. One of my favorite, in that final cutscene of him is perhaps one of my favorite in the series. In conclusion, Go at Clovey is a tragic map. It really does have plenty of strengths, but all of that is thrown out the window when you have a map as poorly designed as this. Personally, for me, the map is a 2 out of 5, but objectively, I have to give this map a 3 out of 5. It's just too competent to give it anything less. But design to me is everything, and if a layout is awful, I just can't enjoy this map. Well, let's conclude this retrospective with Revelations. Revelations, the finale to Black Ops 3 Zombies, and rumoredly was meant to be the final map in the Ether storyline. And thank God it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, Rev isn't another go-out or anything, but it is not strong enough to be the final outing in the COD Zombies Ether story. And if you guys watch my video essays, you know I don't make it a secret I'm not a fan of this map's story significance. But enough whining, let's actually start talking about Rev. Now, similar to Go-Out, this map's visuals are simply out of this world. Everything from the blue sun in the sky to the multiple beams outside the map to the large structures floating around, this map really does give you the impression that you're in a really fragmented reality. Now, interior-wise, things like color are a bit dull, but that's easily excused with how gorgeous the outside looks and the fact that you get some of your favorite locations. Oh, I guess that leads me into the map layout, doesn't it? Well, the only new location in this map is the spawn room and the inside of a Apothecon. Other than that, each location is a previous map location that are all connected either with halls or these things that fling you across the map to another location. And honestly, the way they're all connected is pretty sick. The way these maps are connected doesn't feel cheap. It feels kinda cool to visit all of these locations, and the flow of the map never slows down. As for the reimagined locations, they're fine, however for some reason they nerfed training spots like the Kino stage. I guess this was an attempt to make the map harder, but to be honest, the map is already the easiest zombie map I've ever played, so they might as well have just went full fan service. But yeah, the map layout to this map could have very well felt unimaginative and boring, but Treyarch pulled it off. Good job, guys. As for the innovations, there's a couple of masks you can build that give you special abilities, and you can build a keeper who assists you in combat, basically a powerful version of the Civil Protector. And that's it. Yeah, this map does something different. Instead of introducing a bunch of new ideas to innovate this map and close out the zombie season, they kinda just throw a bunch of fan favorite weapons into the box and call it a day. Meaning you have the Apothecon Servant, Thundergun, Lord Arnie's, and the Ragnaroks all equipped at once. Yes, that means exactly what you think it means. This map is super freaking easy. And while most people enjoy this casual, fun take on a map, I really don't like it. Not only is the map too easy, but it's also just really boring. All you have to do is get a Thundergun, any weapon of your choice that's good with ammo, and just breeze through the map. Now, I know some of you may say that Kino was very easy as well. While that is true, that map was a simplistic on-disc map that was supposed to introduce players to zombies and give them a casual experience. This map is the final map in the season, rumoredly the final map in the series. Usually final maps take huge risks and it usually works out well, but since this map has nothing new to offer, there's really no reason to play it. And things don't get much better with the Easter egg. Personally, this Easter egg is okay. The steps are pretty straightforward, but to Treyarch's credit, these steps are unique and range from alright to tedious. But objectively, this Easter egg is awful, because all these steps make absolutely no sense. These steps are so random and out of nowhere. This map was the longest it took to solve an Easter egg ever. It took 4 days. However, after you do all these random steps, you finally make it to the boss fight. This is it. The final fight with the Shadow Man, the main antagonist of the season, the leader of the Apothecons. This is it. the ultimate battle. This fight can be completed in 2 minutes. Are you joking me? The final fight of the entire season can be cheesed in 2 minutes. Huh. And not only that, but this fight is just another version of the Shadows of Evil fight, except it's even easier because on this map you have access to the Thunder Gun, which makes this the easiest fight in all of COD Zombies. Yes, even non-Treyarch included. And you want to know the one and only original Harbinger of Doom's way of being defeated? The Chronolium shoots a laser at him. What? He gets defeated by a book. What? What happened? This is the most anticlimactic final boss I've ever seen. And this is in a game that has some of the best boss fights in Zombies. Even though Nikolai 1.0's fight is cheap as crap, at least it's climactic. The pre-fight with the Elemental Margors was more intense. Let that sink in. A fight with a bunch of Margors was more climactic than a fight against the main villain of the game. You know what? Whatever. Let's talk about the story. Now, having collected all 4 of the Ultimate's characters' souls and resolving all the universe fragments, our characters arrive at Monty's house in Agartha. All is well, however, since the Maxis is the one from Origins and all he has is a brain and body but not a soul, Maxis can hear a voice coming from the summoning key. He's drawn to it, but once he touches it, him and the Shadow Man, who was still trapped from Shadows of Evil, swap places. And now being in Agartha, the Shadow Man creates a loophole for all of his Apopticon buddies to wreak havoc on Agartha, transforming it into a corrupted, fragmented version of its once pure nature. Dr. Monty sends our characters out to clean things up, and that's as far as the intro goes. Now, I forgot to mention this, but a corrupted Agartha is actually a really cool setting for a map. Anyways, there's multiple small revelations in this map. It finally gives us a weird but okay explanation as to what the heck the Outcast in the Origins was, and it also reveals the children are physical embodiments of our characters' pure souls. Anyways, during the Easter egg, our characters reunite with Sophia, who helps them kill the Shadow Man. Then Maxis and Sophia sacrifice themselves to restore peace to Agartha and erase all corruption from this world. However, that begs the question as to why our characters haven't disappeared, and it's revealed that the blood vials they secured from Alcatraz off-screen means they have a link to another reality, which is how they're able to stay in Agartha. Maxis freaks out about this since having an item from an erased reality can lead to a number of unseen paradoxes, and he's about to erase them from existence when he changes his mind last second and sends them all the way back to the Great War, which creates an infinite cycle, which means the events of this game has happened hundreds if not thousands of times. And I'm not going to lie, that's a really cool plot twist. Until you realize that this ending was meant to cap off the entire storyline, meaning if Black Ops 4 hadn't saved the story, the Ether story as we know it would have ended with our characters infinitely going through the events of Black Ops 3 only for their hardships to not matter since their perfect reality would continuously get reset. If this was how the entire storyline ended, this would have been my least favorite ending to a story ever. So, yeah, like I said, the concept of our characters battling Apopticons and a corrupted Agartha is awesome, especially for a final map, but it was executed way too sloppily. The final encounter of the Shadow Man was lazy and anticlimactic, and if Black Ops 4 hadn't continued the story and if things would have ended right here, I would have been very disappointed. But luckily, BO4 continued the story and gave me at least a pretty heartfelt and satisfying ending. Well, that was my thoughts on Revelations, and man, what a flawed map. The visuals are impressive, the concept is cool, and there's some cool revelations, but the map offers nothing new or interesting, and the story is nothing but disappointing. However, objectively, this map can be fun if you're looking for a chill casual experience, meaning this is the 3rd map in a row to receive a 3 out of 5. Well, that was my entire thoughts on Black Ops 3 Zombies, and despite over half the season being pretty rough, it is an interesting season nonetheless. While Black Ops 3 Zombies for the most part isn't my cup of tea, it is really competent in a lot of areas, and there's a chance to enjoy most of these maps depending on your preference. Well, what about you guys? What do you guys think of Black Ops 3 Zombies? Which maps are your favorites and which maps are your least favorites? Be sure to comment it down below, and leave a like if you enjoyed this retrospective. All of us here at Popticon Overlords would really appreciate it. With that said, peace everyone.